Hello, everybody. Welcome to Insert Here podcast. It is me, your boy Dillon, aka Mr. Beefy, Mr. Ultimate Beefy, and I'm accompanied with my boy
Carlos, COGCG, CM_Graham1.
and we'd like to welcome you to the podcast. Today, it is the 2 out of 3, baby.
Yeah, it is.
Marcus cannot join us because it is the holidays by the time we were recording this, and he is currently across the U.S. So Carlos and I decided that we should do a nice little topic. Carlos, tell him about the topic.
Ah, we're finally doing it. Dylan and I are talking about wrestling today.
Let's go!
Let's
We
go.
are, dude. For those who don't know, Carlos and I are huge wrestling fans. He is more of the AEW guy, and some WWE, I'd say.
I'll give it that. I've been WWE most of my life, so I'll say WWE and 60-40. 40% AEW.
For me, I am just diced up because I love my indie wrestling. So right now, mine is literally divided between New Japan, AEW, and WWE. But it's more of like a 40-40, 40 WWE, 40 New Japan, and like 20 AEW. Just because I'm not a fan of their product. But I can appreciate a lot of the big bangers that they produced this year.
Yep, we're definitely going to take this time to get into that. Because they've produced so many bangers. They've produced bangers in AEW. They produced bangers for Ring of Honor, which they now own, which is something that happened at the start of the year that shaped how this year was going to go for them in both positive and negative ways, I'll say. And that's just a spoiler for how my pros and cons are going to be for this year. And then WWE has had just a stellar year as far as their product goes. I don't know. I mean, I know exactly where it changed.
A lot of accusations, a lot of legal trouble.
Accusations. Oh, God.
So, to break down the format for this podcast, basically, Carlos and I thought it'd be a great idea to introduce you fans and lovelies listening at home to our top 5 goods of the year and our top 5 bads of the year for pro wrestling as a whole. And then we're going to close it off with our performer of the year, superstar of the year, difference being one is WWE, one is the rest of the independent scene, I like to call it, including AEW, our match of the year, and then our pay-per-view of the year, closing it off.
Yep. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to this. This is one of those times I've had goosebumps just thinking about it. Like right before this, we were talking, and I honestly hit Dylan with some unfair knowledge. I was like, hey man, how about we add this kind of structure to it, add the categories, do the superstar of the year in this? And he's like scrambling, and he's like, why would you do that? No, it's so difficult. And honestly, man, I felt that way all day. I had some personal stuff to take care of today, and I didn't take enough time to do that, and I was scrambling too right before this. And
luckily, you had to eat a slice of pizza before we recorded, so
honestly,
that gave me time to look at my matches I've watched this year and what I recorded.
So moral of the story, guys, pizza saves.
Pizza does save lives, whether it's deep dish or New York style.
Exactly.
All right, so I feel like we should start with our... Do you want to start with the goods or the bads?
I think the bads are so heavy. I think if we start with them, we can at least get to the positives for the rest of it.
Okay, start off on a low note and then end up with a high. I hear that.
Ah.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
Starting with number 5, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first just because it's one that I already told you. Roman Reigns is a part-timer now. His contract, he restructured it after WrestleMania. My problem with this is not that he's just not around, because he's been around a lot more in the end of the year. Near the end of the year, he was around a lot more. It's just he missed some major pay-per-views that definitely could have used his star power for sure. I definitely thought it was a missed opportunity, especially right when you decided to put both titles on one guy. You let him become a part-timer. That just doesn't sit right with me, and it definitely takes away from Monday Night Raw, because when he does come back, he comes back to SmackDown. He's primarily a SmackDown guy, and
he was drafted to SmackDown, I think, too. He was drafted there.
Yeah, but that shouldn't matter, especially now that he has both titles. He's holding up, it feels, Monday Night Raw, and before Triple H took over in August, there was no push to make Raw a big deal, like the Raw mid-card titles a big deal, to make that gap, that empty hole of a world title on that brand, to fill that. There's he's the first person to be until he took over, Vince didn't care about the mid-card titles and hey, we should elevate a mid-card title so it seems like the big deal on the show. Now it seems like that, but too little too late potentially, we went most of the year without a major title on Raw. So Roman Reigns being a part-timer is not the biggest deal if he doesn't have both titles on him.
It definitely sucks considering the fact that Brock Lesnar took the WWE Championship and gave it to Roman at the WrestleMania, and I thought that was such a stupid idea personally. Because you had really good momentum with Big E, you had really good momentum with Lashley and all these other people who really should have deserved that belt.
Would you not have rather seen Big E versus Lashley at Mania?
That would have been so cool. That would have been so good.
I saw 2 Big E versus Lashley matches. One when he cashed in, and then the steel cage match where he did the big ending off the top rope. And both of those matches were... obviously, cash in was so great. I felt so happy. I almost cried tears. I was so happy watching Big E win the title. And then, I saw that. And then the steel cage match was so good, too. And then immediately after the steel cage, it felt like they wrapped up the Bobby Lashley saga too fast. Because Drew came out and then... challenged Big E immediately.
Yeah, that was kind of annoying.
Me and you at Crown Jewel, yeah. And I was like, this is... Dude, you didn't even let Bobby Lashley's loss sink in.
And I will also say, too, it's 2 things. One, yes, it did help elevate the mid-card titles, and I actually am more excited to watch Gunther matches with the Intercontinental title, and, Austin... I'm an A-Town Down guy, you know this. But watching the U.S. champ... I always get controversy on that. Watching A-Town Down with his fucking U.S. title, I'm always excited to see what he does. Because he's growing. He's growing.
I'm excited to see him grow. I loved their triple threat match. I'm not going to lie. I loved the Survivor Series. That triple threat match Survivor Series was so good, I didn't care who won that match. And then
I was surprised.
And then it was Austin Theory, and I was like, they did just give him a new serious gimmick where he stopped using the damn phone. And this is kind of what I've been asking him for. So I'm going to let it happen and not be mad about it, but I need to see it. It better work out, especially now that he has a program going into Royal Rumble. Or, no, it's actually next week he has a match with Seth Rollins for the title. I think that leads into Royal Rumble too, but we'll see.
Now... The one thing I'm hoping, and this is my last little bit on what your number 5 is. Okay, you have both titles on Roman. You need to either separate a title from him and re-bring up the other division, or you need to introduce a new unified belt to bring it back to the old days where it's just hey, this is the one big belt that everyone wants. Make it look like a good belt. Don't slap your fucking logo on it, man. Make it look good. Make it look prestigious. But then
that's why I hate it.
This is the one thing I'm excited for, because I hope that they set up a good storyline, whether it's Roman Reigns, when Roman Reigns focuses more on Hollywood, or it's some other big name that's holding that belt. I wait for the day that King Woods holds that title, because there's potential for a story there, because Kofi held it after hunting it for it forever. Big E has finally grabbed it after hunting it forever. The last member of the New Day, Woods, getting that belt, it's going to feel so good.
It's going to feel so good to me for him to see him win it. But I'm so scared now because, and this is a fun fact for anyone who didn't know this, both of the members of the New Day that have had the title lost it to Brock Lesnar. I'm so pissed off because if Xavier Woods wins it, and then
Brock Lesnar's going to resign just to take it.
He's like, I need a title shot against Woods, though. I'd lose my mind. I'd be, honestly, I think he'd do it for the memes, not even knowing it's a meme. I think someone would randomly mention it, you took the title off of the other 2 guys. You want to take it off him? Also, I'm not saying it's a hate crime, right? I'm not saying it is, but I'm not saying it is. Why? But there's something about the big, large, I'm going to say it, the big, large, white, blonde, blue-eyed, Aryan dude beating the Black Trio for the WWE title. I think, come on, man.
And this is where I'm saying Xavier Woods goes over against Lesnar. The power scaling works. Xavier Woods is the strongest member of the New Day, hands down.
He is a big gamer.
John
He is a
Cena
big gamer. He's a big gamer. He knows exactly what it takes.
He knows the cheat codes.
He's gonna hit with the power breaker, boy. Oh man, this doesn't feel like such a con anymore. This seems like we just ended.
It's slowly converting.
No, it's that we brought it. No, it's just because we brought it around so well. It's just so funny. So, if you want, are you okay?
Yeah, I just dropped my water.
Oh, I heard. Oh, and I was like, oh no, he fell. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead with your first con.
My first con. It's a quick one. The New Japan Pro introduced a new title this year called the TV Championship. They introduced the television title. That shit looks like absolute dog. It looks so bad. It looks so bad. It's the one con I have of the year because, New Japan Pro has a history of busting out some of the most beautiful looking belts in the wrestling industry. And, when they discontinued the Intercontinental title, which is a huge honor, in my opinion, to own that belt.
Ew, what the fuck is this?
Yep. It looks worse than the 24/7 championship, and that upsets
me. This is a deep cut, but this looks like so back in the day when there was a hardcore championship in WWE, Tommy Dreamer held it, and
he put the license plate on it.
He put the license plate on it.
This is literally the license plate belt. It's so gross. It's so nasty.
Who's the champion?
No one. There's a tournament to determine it.
Oh, I see.
No one wants to wrestle.
I see the bracket. This bracket, I just give it to Sonata. I love Sonata. Give it to Sonata.
Don't give it to either Sonata or Tomohiro Ishii. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
They have I see they have Toru Yano against Great Khan. Like
That's gonna be a good match.
I know who's gonna go over, but why not put Toru Yano over?
And there's a photo of the executives holding that belt, and the one on the left looks so like, why is this a belt? And the other one on the right's like, this was a mistake. The entire crowd was booing it. It was so bad. It was so funny.
Wait, did they change it from the white design to the orange?
Oh, they never had a white design belt. This is a brand new belt.
Oh, so this is it's like brown in the left picture. I literally typed in NJPW TV title, and it came up with, from the Wrestling Observer, one of them, it's like a brown leather, and then on the right side it's orange. Is it orange?
It's a brownish orange. It depends on the lighting that you're holding it.
Oh, that's horrible then. That's horrible no matter what. It's ugly as shit.
It's supposed to be brown with white accenting. So yeah, that's my first gripe of the year. That belt is not a necessary belt. The United States belt is a beautiful belt. And yeah. What the hell, New Japan? That is such a gross design. If you threw that in the ring, I would think that's a weapon. I wouldn't think that's a championship. That's a weapon you hit someone with in a death match.
In a death match.
You put some thumbtacks on that bad boy. That's a weapon.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So yeah, number one, fucking TV championship for New Japan.
That actually lines up well with my number two. It's not about the title, it's about who it's on actually. Because my number two is rightfully so number two. It's just such shit. Tyrus is your NWA World's Champion. I
knew you were gonna mention this shit because I actually am okay with it. I don't really care too much about it.
I don't care. You know what? You know why people don't care about it? Because people don't care about NWA. All right,
that's
NWA
fair. But I love NWA.
But it preceded us. Like, we weren't even old. We weren't even born yet when NWA was in its prime. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
This is the title that everyone. This is the title Harley Race. This is the title like Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair. Everyone went after. This is the biggest title in the world until the WWF really expanded. You know, this is it, and it should not have become even throughout its TNA years before they introduced the TNA World Title that Kurt Angle was inevitably the first winner of. Like, dude, this was it. This is the big deal. Christian Cage held it, which to me personally, early TNA, I have a soft spot for him. Sting, Rhino, not all of them were great, but Ron Killings, R-Truth, now known as R-Truth, held this title. And Tyrus holding it kind of pisses me off because he's not a good wrestler. It's.
I mean, to be fair, do you like Tyrus holding it, or do you like Trevor Murdoch holding it? Because
Trevor Murdoch is not a bad wrestler, though.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not like a big name out there. You know what I mean?
I mean, Tyrus isn't either.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my thing.
He's not a good name. He's not a big name for a good reason. Tyrus is known for being shit, to be honest.
Yes, but okay. Here's the thing. So NWA, like you mentioned, is not as big as New Japan, Impact, ROH, AEW, or WWE, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one benefit that NWA has with Tyrus as a champion is that Tyrus appears on a news channel called Fox. So he always brings that belt onto that show. He's always like one of the top people that talk on that show, and I'm not getting political about it, because the reason why I say that's a good thing is because there are people who also watch that channel, and that's going to give people insight to trying to watch NWA and bring more wrestling into the industry. So you'll get these people who don't know much about wrestling. They'll see Tyrus go, "Oh, I like Tyrus. I like the way he talks about things. What's that belt he has?" And then every now and then,
everything. That voice is everything.
Well, and so people will then look up NWA. They'll get more traction into wrestling, and I feel like it's a good gateway for what wrestling is as, a whole. That's the only reason I like the idea of Tyrus holding the belt. Beyond that, Nick Aldis was a better champion. Cody was a better champion. Fucking Matt Cardona was a better champion. You could have put on anyone else.
Yep. Exactly. Which is why it's a con for me. But moving on from that, what is one of your cons from this one?
So my next con is the hiring spree that AEW has done this year, because they keep fucking hiring people. They keep hiring people.
Yeah, I have that as well. So we could both talk about this one especially. I have AEW debuts and hiring.
That was my number 3. Sorry, not number 2. That's my number 4. What's this one for you?
Well, I didn't number them. I just kind of listed them out. I didn't put them in any particular order. But it is a big deal to me though. It's a big deal because it's also, I put / WWE returns because they both do the same thing right now, which is they're kind of being followed by a very short period of time where they do something and then no booking afterward. They're not being booked correctly, or they're not even being booked or put on TV after the fact.
So I just did like a quick, hey, how many people have been hired by AEW this year? They have 28 signees this year. They have 28 signees.
That's a lot.
And some of them aren't even with the company anymore.
What do you mean?
Like, for example,
yeah, because I know
William Regal is out.
He's the only one that comes to mind as someone that's literally in and out this year. Yeah.
There was another one I thought there was another one that left not too long ago.
I would imagine that's the only one, to be honest with you. I mean,
no, I had it twisted. Buddy Matthews took a break. He wasn't out completely. So.
Yep. Malachi Black took a break. He wasn't out completely.
Yeah, that entire
Same
team
with Brody
took
King.
a break. So
the entire House of Black entirely took a break because Malachi Black needed time off for personal reasons, right? So, I mean, then he came back. Which I'm glad he came back. I'm really glad the House of Black is back. I think they need to become trios champions at some point soon. Let's
see. And then WWE has had like 14 since the reign of Triple H, roughly.
I could probably list off a decent number of them, honestly. So if we're just going by whatever the hell you want to call I forgot what the name is even called. Damage Control. That's what it is. Bailey, Dakota, Io. That's 3. That's 3 returning. If you count returning superstars, right? Like people that were either leaving or about to leave or had already left. That's 3. Johnny Gargano, Dexter Lumis. You got to think Candice LeRae, Jonah, who
is now back at Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed. I honestly know him as Jonah now because he's been gone for a year. I was just calling him Jonah. But yeah, which by the way, I will say, this is something you'd appreciate. I need them to not put him with The Miz because Bronson Reed as Jonah got a clean victory over Okada in the G1 Climax.
Yes, he
So
did.
there's absolutely no reason why you guys don't book him to hell. Like, he better be the best big guy out there. Because he beat Okada, which means he was about to be pushed to the... Oh my god, he was about to
And we're going to
the
get into
sky.
this later. That match was, like, one of my matches of the year. That's what I was having struggles with. That was such a good match, in my opinion. Okada versus Jonah, great match.
I mean, Okada versus...
Okada gets anyone.
Fill in the
Okada
blank.
gets anyone.
Fill in the blank, guy. Fill in the blank. Even his match at Forbidden Door, which...
We'll get into all that later.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, I mean, AEW signing 20 plus people, WWE rehiring 14. If you're even going to include like Cody Rhodes returning, that's 15.
No, there's a lot of returns basically,
yeah,
and then not really
so
doing much with all of them, right? Like you're placing them. It feels like WWE, and I understand most of the people he wants to rehire, Triple H wants to rehire, are old NXT guys and gals, you know, who he's trying to get back, and he's like, all right, cool, I want to get these guys back. But most of them he's able to get back that are not under long contracts are mid-carders from NXT. People that people didn't like or didn't see well. Like, no one was, like, clamoring for Dexter Lewis to return, unfortunately. I hate to say it like that, but that's true.
I was actually, because when I heard he got rehired, I was so happy. I love Lewis.
I respect it. I loved the Indy Hartwell thing. Index in NXT was great. I loved it.
He was great back in Impact as well, like early day Impact.
Samuel Shaw. Yep. I remember because he had a
same
thing,
gimmick.
Same exact gimmick. Yep,
same gimmick.
Dude.
It hasn't changed, but it works. It oddly works.
Creepy stalker dude works in whatever you want it to work in.
In NXT, he actually kind of switched it up. He did like a Stranger Things, like seeing the future with paintings kind of thing. It was weird. They were trying to capitalize on the Stranger Things like blow up, and then it didn't work. I liked it, but that's just because I think the athlete that plays Dexter Loomis himself is just a fucking great athlete. He's a great wrestler. I like him. So
I wouldn't go as far as say great wrestler, but I respect everyone's like views on that just because wrestling is subjective. Right?
Yeah,
it's
no,
subjective.
definitely.
Everyone likes what they like, and that's perfectly fine. Some things may be for you, some things may not. Some people don't like Randy Orton because he's too what some people look at is like, oh, in storyline, it's cold and calculated. Other dudes look at it like that's just so slow. It's just such a slow wrestling style now.
And some people will look at it because we get like crazy high flyers out there nowadays. Like a lot of wrestling doesn't need to be fast.
It doesn't. Honestly, we're gonna get when I get to my match of the year.
Wrestling doesn't even need to be slow either. So I can see both sides of the argument.
Exactly, it's subjective, right? Honestly, I realized that in here we kind of mixed in between. I kind of took on my cons. I have one big con and then one regular con left. So I've technically already done 3 because we matched on that one. So Tony,
I've only done 2.
You've only done your 2? Okay.
Yeah, which was AEW Hiring Spree and then NJWT TV Championship.
Okay, so I had Tyrus, Roman, and then Tony Khan. I agreed with you on the
and we agreed on the AEW Hiring Spree thing. So
yep, yeah, that. So if you want to go ahead with your third one, by all means.
Yeah, I'll go with my third one. I'm actually gonna bump one of my number 2 with my number 3. I'm gonna swap them, because that way in the story pattern, because I know that we both agree on the one that we're both hinting at here, which is a match that did not need to happen. So I'll get into that one in a second. Mm-hmm. My number 3. Give me 1 second. Let me drink some water.
Yeah. But understandable completely. Like I said, wrestling is subjective, so there are a few things. I'll say, Dylan, it's great talking to you, and we'll start to know as we start to eventually, hopefully, because we've thought about this and we talked about in the past, branch off into our wrestling podcast, which we could definitely make this a full-time thing, make a wrestling podcast separate, but that is in due time, right? With timing, and let's see how it goes, and let's see what we have time for, and we'll definitely go more deeper into this, because our thoughts, I've always enjoyed your opinions on wrestling, seeing your side of things, and I mean, vice versa from what I can tell, right?
Yeah, wrestling goes both ways, man. I mean, even our buddy David, him and I have had a lot of similar wrestling bits, but then we get into moments where we're like, "Hey, I like character. Well, A because of B," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're just wrong." So
Yeah, there's just times where you gotta be like, dude, stop it. Just stop it.
For example, some people think Juice Robinson was a worthy hire for AEW. I say, shut up.
Like
That was not necessary.
Oh, you mean Rock Hard? You mean Rock Hard wasn't
Rock Hard Juice Robinson?
Rock Hard wasn't.
I didn't like him in NGWP, so that's why. But yeah, so my number 3 was the AEW Summer of Punk. Holy shit! What was that? What the fuck happened in AEW? Like, don't get me wrong, I love CM Punk as much as the next guy.
Are we still calling that the Summer of Punk?
I'm still calling it the Summer of Punk because that's what a lot of people in the fan base say.
I think that's fair because it set what happened to him, his injury, set shockwaves throughout, and then we got an interim AEW champion who we will talk about later. I'm talking about it later in depth. We're gonna get there. Well, he's the man.
Dude, CM Punk is just...
We're not there yet. The way the summer ended is on my list. It's literally under my... Because one of my big cons... My con is literally... The main one is controversies. And then I just have a small list of controversies that happened this year.
So I will say that the summer of Punk did not feel good. Because the summer of Punk back in WWE did not feel good. The summer of Punk for AEW did not feel good.
The summer of Punk in Ring of Honor, I went back and watched it. It felt good. It
felt really good. Because that was a young Punk who wasn't full of himself, who wasn't like...
No, I mean, I've heard... it backstage, you hear interviews and stuff. He's always been like that.
But you also hear from other people, like... God damn, I'm going to put my water somewhere else that doesn't keep falling over. Yeah, but you hear from other people that Punk does love wrestling. He does love wrestling. But, dude... He did the one thing that I feel like is hard for wrestling, which is blurring reality with like a shoot. You know what I mean? Like the medium scrum. Yeah. I thought that was just a promo, and I thought he was just doing like a really cool fucking pipe bomb.
Yep. Yeah. I thought.
And then you find out that there was a chair thrown and biting.
I mean, even then, for a second, I thought it. But then he really hounded on Colt Cabana about... So let's talk Brawl Out. So Brawl Out, this scrimmage, he just goes off for about, 15, 20 almost? And he just goes off about Colt Cabana, about how... Just everything with Colt Cabana. Honestly, I'd tell you to go watch it, but this was the biggest news story in wrestling. That month at least. That month, it was the biggest controversy. Every wrestling YouTube channel had it had coverage of it for like 3-4 weeks after that. Like there was so much going on, all the backstage scoops, everything that was happening backstage. Suspensions after that. Basically, he goes off at a press conference, then you hear that he got into a fight between him and the Elite, who
of all people,
because he had called them out. Because he called them out in the press conference for being these fake ass EVPs of the company, because they're like, oh, well, that's what happens when you work with children, and it's just they'd rather tank the show and they'd rather have their egos flaunted than make money, which is what we're here for, right? So ultimately, he felt that they went into business for themselves, which is a wrestling term where it's just like, you're fucking me over right now. Instead of doing what's good for the business. And then they confronted him. The stories are blurred lines here. The stories are blurred. They got into a fight backstage, and the term was coined Brawl Out. That's what it was called on news channels, and that's what happened. So they got suspended, stripped of their titles, and then interim titles happened again.
And that's the reason why I hate the fucking Summer of Punk, dude. It's like you're gonna get into such a beef, it makes you feel like you just didn't give. CM Punk not only proved himself right, but he also made himself look like an ass because he was stripped of a title, a prestigious title. They want the fucking AEW title to feel so prestigious, and then he gets stripped of it because of he didn't check his ego at the door.
It's not just that, though. It's not just that.
It's not just
Summer
that,
Punk was his fault. It was not his fault at first because he got injured. He jumped into the crowd to celebrate him winning the AEW title at Double or Nothing from Hangman Page, first of all.
And effed himself up somehow.
And after him... No, because you could see he hit his foot in the guardrail when he jumped in this time.
Of all things,
He
knows his foot's bad. He knew his foot was bad, and he did that.
And it happened, man. It happened. You had to move past it, right? We got a tournament. I believe it was a tournament, right? We got a tournament that ended in Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley, which I was not mad at all. Okay, because I got Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley, and I was like, that's the match right there. And that happened. I was happy. We got that.
Also, the only thing is that I just want to throw this out there: Bryan Danielson will get his day. Bryan Danielson will get his day. I'm hoping it's soon.
He will get his day before he retires. I think he's going to put over as much young talent. He's going to put over MJF at Revolution, and then I don't know where he's going. But he's going to put over MJF at Revolution. So we'll see that happen. So we got Jon Moxley as interim AEW champion. Jon Moxley held the company on his back and just ran with it for a full summer. We're talking Forbidden Door as a pay-per-view. He faced Tanahashi. He defended the AEW interim title so many times in those 3 months. Then Punk came back. He unified the belts on a Dynamite, on a one random episode of Dynamite before pay-per-view, All Out. He beat Punk in a squash match. He squashed him. And it was so... And then...
It was so quick. It felt nasty watching it.
It was crazy. And no one expected him to not kick out. When we all saw that, we were all like, oh, he came back too soon. Which is the story they were telling. He came back too soon. Then I didn't like that story either necessarily because I love the squash match because it was so crazy. But then the following week, the story was CM Punk's like, I can't do it. Ace Steel, who's his trainer and old, who trained him.
Oh my god! Don't get me
Who
started.
was also part of Brawl Out. Who was also part of Brawl Out and ended up biting Kenny Omega allegedly. Decided I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, no, dude, you've got to do this. You got to take the contract. Take the contract Jon Moxley put out here. You're gonna be the one to sign it. You're gonna face him at All Out for the title. And he's like, you know what? I can do it. You're right. And then he beats Jon Moxley for the title. And then All Out post All Out press conference is where shit went down. And then all that happened, and he gets stripped of the title again. Now I'm such a big CM Punk fan. My Instagram name has been CM Graham. My initials are CMG, and my last name being Graham. I literally went and said, all right, CM Graham. I'm from Chicago. I've always loved CM Punk. This hurts so much to watch the process of this happening. And I was like, oh, there's so much happening. Like, why did you do this? Why couldn't you just... I honestly think if he would have just gone backstage, said, hey, I got to talk to you, Tony Khan. I got to talk to these 3 assholes. We're going to get in a room. We're going to talk about this. I'm going to tell them how I feel.
He could have done it so much, more diplomatically, more business-oriented, but he didn't.
Like, hey, guys, don't be assholes. Let's make some money. All right? And then whatever. But no, man. But such is life. That happened. I see why it's on your list. It's on mine under controversies. Which brings me to my next one. Controversies. Oh, controversies of 2022. Where do I start?
Vince McMahon.
I would just say, yeah, Vince McMahon. It's the biggest news story in wrestling history, potentially.
Arguably, it was the drug scandal of WWE, but yeah.
Vince McMahon retiring? Yeah.
It's as bad as the drug scandal because you had the whole Eddie Guerrero, you had the whole Chris Benoit.
Yeah, but that was still 10 years later. You know what I mean? It was in the mid 80s, 90s when they started going about the drug scandal and the whole trial and everything. I would arguably this is bigger because Vince McMahon retiring is going to impact this company and this industry for forever. It's not gonna stop being a big deal, you know. Whereas people are gonna do drugs backstage. not literally backstage, but people are going to do drugs, and there are ways to hide that from drug tests anyway, right? If they wanted to do steroids, they could. You don't think there are people out there that are doing steroids still?
Look at Matt Riddle. Not saying it's like a steroids thing, but he got flagged for drug abuse or whatever the fuck it was.
Twice this year. He just got suspended. He just got suspended for it for his second drug test. He got suspended. And he's I don't even think it's like steroids. I think it's literally just weed. No, they don't drug. No, WWE stopped drug testing for weed a couple years back.
Did they really? Oh, I thought they kept flagging people for it.
Dude, they don't drug test for weed anymore. Weed's weed.
Wow.
You know, it's illegal in most places. So
good on them,
fuck
WWE.
It. Good on them, getting with the times. Look at you guys.
Yeah, look at you guys.
At the same time, that tells you that Matt Riddle popped for something else, which a lot of people were speculating it's cocaine, but we are not going to speculate here. We're not here to speculate. We're just here to talk about pros and cons.
We go on facts.
We go on facts, guys. We're going on facts to a degree. Other than that, it's subjective, right? So back to wrestling being subjective. That's where we're at. Yes, I would say controversies. Vince McMahon retiring, the whole NDA thing, all of the whole Wall Street Journal story, him having to retire is the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest wrestling news story of all time. It's not gonna stop being felt. The repercussions of it are not gonna stop being felt throughout the industry for years to come. So there that is, right?
Yeah.
What you got?
Oh, was that it for your controversies?
Well, as far as controversy goes, it's Brawl Out. The Cody thing at the start of the year, but I kind of decided at the end to switch that off. I wouldn't say the Cody thing at the start of the year, like Cody Rhodes leaving AEW, working at first without a contract, doing that amazing ladder match with Sammy Guevara. We're not going to talk about what happened to Sammy Guevara after that and that whole shitty TNT title situation. But
that was almost on my bad list.
Honestly, it's actually number 5 on my bad list is something to do with title. We're going to get there. So the Cody situation, that whole controversy of like he was working without a contract, ended up leaving AEW, the company that he helped build in the first place, and then ends up back in WWE at WrestleMania, which I was so happy for, but still crazy thought, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, so that's your controversies.
Yeah.
My last 2 aren't really controversial. It's just more of like, okay, I'm just gonna talk about it. The Ric Flair final match sucked. It was so bad.
I think I had 6 on here then, because I also had that. I had 6 on here. Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Like, okay. Andrade Chase, I think it was that. It was not Andrade Chase.
Andre Chase?
No, not
Chase.
You? No, it was Andrade. What's his last name?
Andrade El Idolo. I would just go on Andrade.
Andrade, because that's what I knew him as.
Yeah, Andrade. It was Andrade and Ric Flair versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal.
And this is the part that gets me. Okay, Jay Lethal and Andrade carried the hell out of that match, and I am a Jay Lethal mark till the day I die. Lethal is machismo, all that stuff, dude. I'm a huge Jay Lethal fan, and he couldn't even carry it for me. I was like, dude, Ric Flair is struggling during this match. Jeff Jarrett was doing okay. I don't know.
I had recently heard that Ric Flair had mentioned in an interview or two, like, that he had passed out or almost passed out at several points in this match while he was bleeding on the apron. Why? Why were you bleeding? Why were you bleeding at all? Why did this match happen? This is after... Think about this, dude. You've been through so much in the past couple of years. What with the Dark Side of the Ring story coming out, all that controversy, right? Your popularity has definitely gone down in recent years.
The plane ride from hell.
The plane ride from hell, exactly. That happened. Then you got all this stuff going on, and you're like, come on, man. You got Ric Flair... Like, Ric Flair, you almost died a couple of years ago. Didn't you have a heart attack, or you had a big issue? Like, you had health issues. You're in your 70s, I'm pretty sure. If not 60, if not late 60s. Like...
It's bad.
Stop wrestling.
It's bad because he even wanted to do a off-the-top rope spot that was gonna put him through a table, and Charlotte even had to say, "Dad, cut the shit," because he was. I don't know if he just wants to feel young again. I don't know if he's going through like one of those, "Hey man, I'm still a legend. I still got it." Like, dude, Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan know when to stop. Why don't you? You're just as old as those two guys.
Let's not mention Hulk Hogan.
But to quote Iron Sheik, fuck Hulk Hogan. But at the same time, I have to mention the Hulkster because he's not even doing any wrestling. He makes like WWE appearances every now and then, and that's it.
Yeah, but he also wrestled in TNA. In
Okay,
the early 2010s. So
we're not going to talk about the mainstream mafia, all right? That's the last thing I want to talk about on this podcast.
The main event mafia?
Whatever.
I didn't hate them. We're not going to talk about it, but I didn't hate them when they were.
Them. Can I do my like bads for all of wrestling? Main event mafia.
Got it.
Jeff Hardy being high during the Sting match, you know.
The Victory Road 2012 match is 2011. Victory Road 2011. Yeah,
Hulk Hogan's everything.
Yes. But I can agree with you on the Ric Flair. Bringing it back, I can agree with you on the Ric Flair retirement match being horrible. Just horrible all around. 0 out of 5 stars. 0 out of 10 stars if we're doing our movie review rating. Which we'll be recording one right after this. We're going to be doing the Adam Sandler's 8 Crazy Nights in honor of Christmas just passing.
It's a technical foul.
Yes, it is. You will feel my wrath.
That's how Ric Flair was in the match. You'll
feel my wrath. Without his wig, he looks like an owl. Hoo-hoo. Oh my god. Yep. So yeah, what's your number 5? Go ahead and say your number 5. I basically was done except for the yeah, I was basically done. I had a 6th one actually, like I said, but it's 6, right? So
number 5 for me, and this is kind of it's a hot take. It is a hot take. AEW's purchase of Ring of Honor and the whole current state of Ring of Honor.
There were more AEW things on my cons this year than I wanted there to be.
Mine was like 3 AEWs and 2 non-AEWs, and none of them were WWE because I think they had a great year. My thing about Ring of Honor, okay, they bought the entire video library. That's understandable. They scooped up some talent that did need to be picked up, like Jonathan Gresham or Danhausen. I fucking love me some Danhausen. Love that Danhausen.
Wait, do you mean Jonathan Gresham, who's currently an Impact signee?
Yes.
Whatever could have happened there.
I know. Crazy.
Maybe they had too many people on TV and too many people on their roster and then didn't have time for them all.
And that's the thing, too. With the purchasing of Ring of Honor meant the purchasing of a lot of wrestlers. Now, I think Danhausen was a much-needed signee for AEW because he added a light to wrestling that WWE doesn't have right now. He's kind of like an R-Truth, but a young R-Truth, in my opinion. That same comedy-type character. But when push comes to shove, Danhausen can have a good match. And he had a lot of good matches in Ring of Honor. Great storylines, great funny guy. Now, this is the part that upsets me. I understand why they have Ring of Honor now. It's basically their NXT.
Yeah, but they wanted TV for it, but they also ended up not getting TV for it. That's why they took so long to get through it. It took almost a year. Literally, it took them a year to figure out the whole whether or not they're going to get TV situation.
And it's been boiled down to just pay-per-view events once every blue moon. I haven't heard anything of them other than that. They only appear on AEW Dark, AEW Rampage, AEW Dark Elevation, and AEW fucking Dynamite. Like, the only good things that I have had personally come out of it is like strapping a rocket to Wheeler Yuta, giving Claudio Castagnoli his first world championship
and second,
and
the Ocho.
And the Ocho now isn't he like the Nueve now or something like that? Wasn't
no?
That
He's no. The running gag is he's the Ocho.
He's the Ocho. Okay, I didn't know if that was before or after.
I hate Chris Jericho now. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I love what he's done to the business. Don't ask me that ever again. don't stop it.
But yeah. So agreed. I mean, some good things have come out of it. Some things have come out of it. hey, with the summer of Punk being over, Colt Cabana came back. That was good.
And then got injured, so he's off
And
TV.
then he got injured again, so he's back off TV. Yeah, so it didn't matter.
It was a match against Jericho in which he got injured and it sucked. The match wasn't bad, it's just he got injured in the match, and I saw some pretty heavy botches. So, yeah. But overall, we could probably keep going for another 40 minutes on this, but just for the sake of time, I'm sure we have so many cons for the year, but there's so much good to talk about. I do want to get into those.
Yeah, for sure.
Man. So,
you start off with cons. Can I start with goods?
Oh, 100%. Do you want to do your superstar of the year first, or performer of the year, or you want to just kind of go with both and just give me both of them and let me know why?
I was gonna go with like just the pros, like my top 5 pros. I thought we were gonna leave those things for the very end.
Oh, sure, yeah, go ahead. That works too.
Yeah, because I was kind of like, we want to give like the awards and the honorary stuff to like them at the very end and such.
Works for me.
Yes. So my pros are from Forbidden Door from both AEW and WWE. The idea of Japanese wrestling being alienated by the American or even just Western audience is a very big thing for me. As someone who, loves Japanese pro wrestling, and most of my love from pro wrestling came from Japanese wrestlers growing up. Dude, AEW knocked out the door with Okada, Jay White, Minoru Suzuki, who's my number 1 wrestler of all time in my opinion. Tomohiro Ishii is still even like coming back to AEW. They even have that Konosuke guy, Konosuke Tamashita.
Takeshita.
Yeah,
Konosuke Takeshita, and he's an AEW signee, and he's great.
He went against Jon Moxley
and it
had a banger of a match. And I think AEW did something great there, even with an Aussie Open or United Empire and all this stuff. They're doing great. Even FTR, you're just getting such good matches from AEW doing that signing with New Japan. And the other part about the good is WWE's now getting on that train. For example, Carl Anderson is defending his never openweight championship at Wrestle Kingdom. He got greenlit for it, and WWE's letting Carl Anderson defend that title. And WWE is allowing Shinsuke Nakamura to give the Great Muta his last match.
Yep.
Those are both amazing things for me because I love all these wrestlers. I love Japan for their wrestling. And to hear that WWE is even like, loosening the leash a little bit to let some of their wrestlers who are known for Japanese wrestling. Hell, they even openly talked about on a pay-per-view that Carl Anderson is the New Japan Pro Wrestling never open weight champion.
Yep.
And this is so sweet to me because if you think about it, Japan and WWE had a history pre-2000s. And there was a great history with, Hulk Hogan, Brock Lesnar, and all this other crazy shit. And after an RIP to the man himself, to Antonio Inoki, for passing away.
Rest in peace, man. You did great for us all.
This love note to Japanese wrestling that both American Western companies are doing is so good to see, and that's like my start of my goods. And you might be wondering, what are the rest of mine going to be? And we'll get into that. What was your first good for the year, Carlos?
My first good for the year was, and it's kind of working backwards. Actually, no. I'll say Forbidden Door was also on my list for good. So Forbidden Door happening was also on my list of good things that happened. I had a lot of goods, though. I'm going to give that as one of my 5, though, for sure. That was definitely one of the biggest deals to me. It was one of the best pay-per-views of the year. Not my best, but we'll get there. And it was a tough race, okay? So,
agreed.
Forbidden Door, definitely agreed. That was one of the best. I'm actually going to move on to my second one then, which I'm going to go with WrestleMania was some of the most fun I've had watching a WWE premium live event, as they call them now, not pay-per-view, that I've had in so long. And it's because of bad booking. It's because WrestleMania was so much fun.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned this because that was actually like my number one of all. Like WrestleMania was so good this year. It was the best WrestleMania I watched in a while, besides the one I went to go see in person.
And that's tough because you went to go see it in person.
Yeah, and I got to only see the first night of a 2-night event when WWE came back. I was at that Tampa show, and that was a banger of WrestleMania. But the WrestleMania earlier this year, I agree. It was phenomenal. Cody Rhodes' return had me so hyped. We were texting each other, dude. Our DMs were blowing up between
it
each other.
It was crazy. Becky versus Bianca.
Good.
Okay. If we're talking night one, I understand. I understand completely. If you're comparing night one and night two, I don't remember if Becky versus Bianca was just the start of night. No, it was night two. It was night one, right? It was night one.
Yes.
Yeah, right? And then they had Charlotte. I feel like they had Charlotte Ronda night two, and then unless they did it opposite, unless it was Becky Bianca night two. I don't know. We'll have to go back and fact check that.
The main event for night one was
Stone Cold Kevin Owens. But that was not supposed to be. But initially it was. I feel like it was Charlotte Ronda. Someone told me I feel like it was Charlotte Ronda, and then I was like, "That's main eventing night one. Of course it is." And it was a shitty match.
Lynch and Belair was night one.
Okay. Well, either way, Belair versus Becky Lynch was a banger. And that was probably one of the best, if not the best. Bianca Belair has two of the best women's matches I've ever seen at WrestleMania. If not two of the best women's matches I've ever seen, personally. The third one would go to, because obviously Sasha Banks last year, Becky Lynch this year. I would give the third one to Charlotte versus Asuka. I didn't like the ending of Charlotte beating her, but the match itself was great. From a wrestling perspective, I will not down Charlotte for that. But WrestleMania was great. That's number 2 on my list for good things this year.
Yeah, that was like my cream of the crop. When WrestleMania is that good, it deserves like a fucking top slot of good.
Sorry,
because it's hard for them to have. Yeah.
Yeah, Siri.
Special referee Siri.
Yeah, I don't know when she started listening, but eventually she's just like, I don't understand what you just said. And I'm like,
I don't like wrestling.
That's fine. I don't like wrestling. Well, Siri, you're okay.
I respect your opinion.
I respect your opinion. I know that it's wrong. It's okay.
My actual number 2 though was Danhausen debuting AEW. Was something I did not know I needed and wanted. I've been following Danhausen in the indie scenes. I've been following him back on ROH when he was fighting. I forget who the guy's name was, but Danhausen was going for the contract. I think he is a much needed character for the entire roster. I already mentioned a little bit earlier. I'm not going to go too detail with it, but he started off as very nice, then very evil, and that's his face persona. You know, not that brutal. He had a slow beginning at the start because he was injured, coming off an injury. He didn't want to risk anything. Putting him in a match against Ricky Starks, great match. Putting him with Hookhausen was very good.
I mean, I wouldn't say it was I wouldn't say the Ricky Starks match. He hasn't had a great match yet.
He hasn't had a great match. There's potential.
He has had very short matches where he's lost. He's had matches where he won. The only match I would say he actually did well in was, I think it was Double or Nothing. It might have been Revolution, where Hook was in a tag team with him and then beat up QT Marshall and the other guy. I don't remember who it was, whether it was Kamaroto or Aaron Solo, but he beat up the other guys, and then he came in and got the pin. But Hookhausen was probably the highlight of it for me from him. And even then, I'm not even gonna say it was because of him. I'd say it's because of Hook. I will disagree. I would say I agree. Let's agree to disagree on this one.
Definitely, and I respect it. Not everyone's a Danhausen guy. Me, I love that Danhausen. I'm also biased because my buddy David just got me an autographed picture of Danhausen for Christmas, and that promptly sits on my wall. So
fair enough.
Yeah, I love me that Danhausen. And also, he just at Full Gear, if I'm correct, it was Full Gear that had that crazy cool pay-per-view that just happened. Mm-hmm. Danhausen came out with a new theme and a new look. That version of Danhausen is very evil and somewhat nice, and that's the gimmick version that uses teeth and does the tequila kick. So I'm excited to see what he has to offer next year. Definitely a great addition to the AEW roster that I'm excited for.
Okay. Well, if we're speaking about, you did mention something I want to go over. It's one of my good things, but since you mentioned new additions, I did not, when he signed, you could not have told me I was going to say this. One of the main good things that happened this year was Logan Paul signing to WWE.
That
was so pleasantly surprised by Logan Paul. It was shocking. And it's not that I hate Logan Paul or have anything against him. It's I did not care about Logan Paul. I didn't. I wasn't. He's just a YouTuber. He's a dude that does a YouTube boxing thing, which I have a relationship with, where I'm just like, I don't really give a shit about it. Make your money, I guess. I get that some of the fights are rigged. I can clearly see that. That's fine, dude. Like, whatever, you know. But at the same time, do what you gotta do, right? Have your fun. Make your money. I respect what you guys are doing. Do your thing. You have a fan base. It wasn't me. But then you wrestled, and I saw you wrestle with The Miz, and I also saw you wrestle as a tag team with The Miz versus the Mysterios at Mania. Once again, Mania was more fun than it has been in a very long time. He kind of added to that, and his match wasn't the biggest match or the best match by any means, but his match wasn't bad by any means either at Mania. And the SummerSlam match against The Miz wasn't my favorite, but SummerSlam kind of sucked for me personally. That's just me. You were
to be honest,
you were gonna say
though. No, you're all good. I was just gonna say, to be honest with me, to you and myself, it's one of those things where I know we're not doing a Rookie of the Year, but if we were, I would hands down give it to Logan, because yes, I know that he is technically not, because he had a match last year, if I'm correct. No, his first match was WrestleMania.
It was Mania, SummerSlam, and Crown Jewel, which was my next point. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like, he is by far a Rookie of the Year. If I don't see him as a single Rookie of the Year, it's not a great decision, because for a media talent like him to make that transition from just doing boxing and making
and it's clean. And it's clean. It's clean. He has some of the cleanest, that was my next point when I was going to mention Crown Jewel. His match against Roman Reigns.
Oh my God.
Was so good.
Such a good match.
And I knew it was going to end with him losing, because you're not going to give the title to Logan Paul. But I'll be damned if there was not a moment where I was like, oh my God, Logan Paul's going to beat Roman Reigns. Logan Paul's going to beat oh my God. And then he kicked out. And Roman Reigns is the king of the 2.99 count, where he really will kick out you won't see him move. And you're like, Roman, please move. Roman, move. And then the ref's hand gets to like the shadowy area, the dark zone, I call it, where like it's about to go down to the mat. It's about to be 3, and Roman moves so fast, and he's like, nope. And everyone's like, there was a collective gasp at one point, because he hit Roman and rocked him with that one lucky punch story, like they were doing. That he did him with the one lucky punch, and then Superman punched him on top of that, and everyone was like, oh my God, it's over.
The one spot that me and my friends were like popping off for, that we thought put Roman away, was the fucking buckshot lariat that he pulled off.
Wasn't that beautiful?
It was. I'm sorry. And Hangman Adam
Say
Page,
it. I say it. Say it, man. I agree. Say it.
The day I see Hangman Adam Page do a buckshot lariat that proud and that fucking smooth, Logan Paul beats him on the buckshot lariat. I've never seen a buckshot lariat connect so well, so good, so fluid. He had no hesitation. He went into it like he did it 100 times.
Bro, it's like
he went into it like he did it a million times.
It was so like smooth. It was fast. It was like there are times where Hangman's will slow down. You know, it feels. But even then, I always loved Hangman's, because he used to just knock people out with him. Like, he always, there were words that, like, people backstage were like, oh yeah, he used to knock the shit out of people with that. But then he slowed down with it and like was like, stop hitting people so damn hard with it. But Roman
wanted him to hit him with it.
Roman's like,
Roman like hit me with it.
Roman's like, feed into it, man. But the messed up thing is, unfortunately, because he went so hard and that match was so amazing, like, Logan's knee, and this is honestly why wrestlers will tell you, you don't put 100% of your body at risk every time you do this, because Logan, like, destroyed his knee in that match, which worries me for future matches if he ever has one again. I don't know if he's going to, but, like, his knee, like, exploded.
Knowing how Logan is, he's not going to cut there. He's going to try to bounce back as quick as possible, put himself through some, like, deep recovery, and then we're going to get the Usos versus the Paul brothers as, like, a tag match. It's already set up for it.
I'd have reservations about that one, but either way, I mean, if Logan Paul, I will say, I'll give it this. I will watch Logan Paul's next match if it happens. All right, because he earned my respect that night, so I'll give him that. Other than that, yeah, I will say. Do you want to go ahead with your third one?
Yes. And the third one is the death of the 24/7 championship. Thank you, God. Thank you, Nikki Cross.
Do we even need to linger on this? Can we just say amen to that and move on?
Amen. The only good thing about it was R-Truth got a spotlight and he was great, and that was
the whole time.
It was a dog shit title.
Like there was a dog shit title. No one needs it. Say the same thing to the TV title in New Japan.
The 24/7 365 Southwest by Southwest North Carolina I-75 United Intercontinental Champion R-Truth was the only good thing about that belt. The rest of it is garbage.
Yeah, I will say the best moment in 24/7 title history
was it getting destroyed.
No, I would actually say it's the best moment was R-Truth has a promo with Brock Lesnar.
Oh yeah, that was a good one, yeah.
And Paul Heyman says that R-Truth said that Paul Heyman and other execs and other guys backstage, like it was mainly Paul Heyman though. Paul Heyman dared him, bet him that he couldn't break Brock Lesnar in the ring and get him to corpse, which wrestling term for corpse is just breaking him, making Brock Lesnar laugh. Which Brock Lesnar is not as much of an asshole as people like to make it seem. Brock Lesnar, after this, said he laughed so hard, he told Vince McMahon to his face, he's like, I want to work with R-Truth more. It didn't happen, unfortunately, but I kind of wanted it more after that, too. That shit was funny. When he said,
R-Truth,
Go ahead.
You go first. I know what you're about to quote.
Yeah, when he said, I know you're a big man. That don't mean you won't go flying over the top rope when I throw you out the Royal Rumble. Paul Heyman. And everybody's like, what? And even though, Corey Graves on announcement was on the commentator team was dying. And even Brock started, that's when Brock started corpsing. He died. This man's dying laughing. And then he's like, I'm not in the Royal Rumble match. He's like, you're not? He's like, no. If you get in there, you're getting in with Brock Lesnar. And he's like, and then he goes through his whole shtick again. He's like, on that note, the 24/7 European Undisputed, and he goes through his whole thing. And I-75 South and Kentucky champion is officially undeclaring for the Royal Rumble match. And Brock Lesnar died laughing. He's like, honestly, man, that's the best 24/7 title moment. And you can't, I honestly no one can tell me otherwise. That's it. And then right below that,
pro for the year was just corpsing just corpsing.
Just corpsing, man. The honestly, my honorable mention to hell yeah, Phil Uzi all the time, Corpsing for this year was honestly Sami Zayn. We're gonna get to him. We're gonna get to Sami Zayn. I have a moment where I have to talk about Sami Zayn later. Yeah. But
so your next one.
Yes. So number 4 for me. I'm glad we could talk about these. Number 4 for me so far was Triple H's grace period. I called this Triple H's grace period, and I mentioned this to you earlier.
That is actually my very last one because we already talked about WrestleMania. We talked about 24/7 Championship, Danhausen, and all that stuff. So my last.
We already talked about Vince retiring. Triple H took over WWE Creative in August. He had to do SummerSlam with the card he already had from Vince because it was so close. It was already so close to when he retired, and SummerSlam was right there. He couldn't change the card drastically.
He made it work.
He made it work better than it would have. I will say SummerSlam is one of the weakest cards I personally saw this year, but that's just me. I understand. I respect it. I get it. Everybody to each their own. I didn't personally like SummerSlam. I didn't like the Roman versus Lesnar for the last time. Hopefully for the last time. It's probably not the last time, but it's the last time match. But
that was a pretty badass match though, because when
I think
threw it. Roman caught it. It was kind of.
I've been meaning to catch somebody in this mode. So you're currently thinking about that match. Was the match good, or was the moment of Brock lifting the ring with the tractor so damn good you can't help but be like 5 out of 5 match?
No, and I never claimed it was a 5 out of 5 match. I always say it's a 4 out of 5 at best.
That's a lot too, though.
It is a lot, but out of all the Roman versus like Lesnar matches that I've seen throughout the entire year, not the entire year, the entire history of their rivalry that they've always had, easily a top 3 match. It was pretty good.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. That's not difficult either, though. That's not difficult either, though.
It's not difficult, but
they've had some shitty matches. Respect. How about one day you and I go back and watch that match? Because I might have to watch it a second time. Me and you might have to watch that match, review it, and I'll have to give it a second opinion. We'll have to start doing this.
We need to do a 2 out of 3 podcast where we review all the Roman Reigns and Lesnar matches.
I think that's an absolutely horrible idea.
And it's going to be hilarious.
I don't think, because it's going to start on such a high note with Rollins wins the title, and then it's going to end with, like, by the middle of it, I'm going to be like, but Reigns definitely touched the floor first in that cage match. Like, what? He speared him through, and then he definitely touched the floor first. And then we're going to get into Braun, and then SummerSlam that year when Braun came out and called.
We'll take care of it, don't worry.
There's just so much that'll happen. I don't want to watch Roman versus Lesnar 5 times. I don't. We're going to have to find some. I'm going to put you through some shit then, if that's what you're going to start doing. We're going to go back and forth on this one. Yeah, for sure.
It's worth it.
We'll see it.
The reign of Triple H.
The reign of Triple H so far, because like I said, it's a grace period. I call it a grace period because not everything, like I mentioned earlier, some of the rehires, a decent number of the rehires have not gone anywhere, but I'm giving him a full 6 months. That was August. It is December currently. It's going to be January by the time this actually gets posted, but I'll give him till end of February, and by the end of February, actually no, I said I would give him till Mania. I told Dillon I'd give him till Mania. When WrestleMania happens, the day after WrestleMania, the night after WrestleMania, Raw is the biggest show of the year after, honestly, besides WrestleMania.
That's true, yeah.
There are 2 things coming up that need to happen. 1, WrestleMania needs to be amazing without Vince McMahon. And 2, you need to come back from the worst Royal Rumble of all time.
True.
I hated Royal Rumble last year. It almost made my cons list. It was the worst pay-per-view of the year. I've never hated a Royal Rumble, and I was so upset, and he needs to make it better. He needs to fix it, because Shane McMahon fucked up this past year's Mania.
He did. It was so bad.
He did. It was so bad. Yeah, but go ahead with your number 4.
Oh, that was it. Mine was literally Forbidden Door, Danhausen debut, Death of the 24/7 Championship, Triple H's reign, and Cody Rhodes. Well, not Cody Rhodes, but just like WrestleMania as a whole.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my number 5 was Full Gear. Full Gear.
Full Gear was good.
It is a reset, a welcome reset to AEW, right? It doesn't feel the same anymore. The summer of Punk is over. It felt like, hey, we're going to reset everything. We're going to have great matches. We're going to showcase our wrestling, which is what the hell this company was founded on in the first place, was just great wrestling outside of WWE, where they're not the only big company in town. We're going to give you great wrestling, good stories. We're going to give you what you want. We're going to give you fan service. We're going to give you Jamie Hayter winning the women's title after the fans got behind her and said, she's next. We're going to give you, even though it wasn't the best match of the night, Saraya versus Britt Baker. Saraya coming out, like, damn near crying while she came out because this is her big return. By the way,
one of the best, dude, Zombified was so goated.
Zombified, so good. Zombified, such a great, like, shout out to Falling in Reverse. Like, such a good... Just so good. Yeah, but all of that, man. All of that, and then some. Full Gear is a great welcome reset to AEW. It led to things like Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks is the man. It didn't happen at Full Gear, but he won the tournament. The Eliminator tournament the following week against Ethan Page, who Ethan Page is now getting a spotlight. He looks like he's gearing up for a match against Bryan Danielson. Like, there's been a reset button that was pushed, and now we're heading in that direction. Then Ricky Starks got some great promos in with Max. And MJF Ricky Starks is going to be, I'm predicting, for 2023, before the bidding war 2024 for Max, I'm calling MJF versus MJF loses the title at next year's Winter is Coming to Ricky Starks. I'm calling that. I think it's a full year. I think we give him a full year. Ricky Starks wins at next year's Winter is Coming. And that's my perfect booking scenario. I want that to happen. Ricky Starks needs to have a full year of him killing it in the main event card, at the upper mid card, right? Showing he's a main event talent, and then earning it, and then coming back better than ever, not falling for that BS again, for that cheating, and then beating MJF for the title. That's how I think we should end with that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Full Gear had so many good matches because, I mean, you have MJF and Moxley, you have the Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory, Jamie Hayter versus Tony Storm. Such a good match.
Such a good match.
By far, I think one of the best matches I've seen from the AEW TNT Championship recently was the Joe, Wardlow, and Powerhouse Hobb. Just big,
right? This
men
whole year was
slapping
such
on
an
each other.
ass year for that title.
Except, like, putting it on Wardlow was Putting it on Joe, I'm excited.
It's only because Wardlow wasn't hot anymore because of the MJF thing. Like, Wardlow wasn't, bro. Wardlow's heat had died down some by then.
I would have loved to see Powerhouse Hobb with it. I thought
if
that
Powerhouse Hobbs had
or
won it, I
Joe
would have been
taking
happy.
it. Joe or Hobbs.
The king of television? The king of
Yeah.
television. Now that Joe has it, he's making that shit relevant, and I love it.
And Joe's a big name. He can easily, like, make any title elevated if he wanted to. And you can't tell me that you don't hear Joe's theme coming down and you still sing along to it. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum,
It's
bum,
good.
bum, bum,
I
bum.
like. I mean, it's only because I can still hear his WWE theme song in there.
Exactly, and I'm like, ooh.
It's close enough, but it kind of also has that, and that's the only I will say a thing about AEW that pisses me off. It has a WCW feel to it, where like I don't know if you've watched old stuff on Peacock or WWE Network from WCW, but like people would leave WWF at the time, they leave WWF. And then they'd go to WCW and they'd get their theme song changed to something that was like an off-brand version of what their theme song in WWF was known as. And sometimes it was good, like, but sometimes it was so ass. Like, you can't tell me that you'd rather hear. I would not have rather heard some of the stuff I heard compared to, like, no, man, no, that wasn't it.
No, agreed. But I think Samoa Joe is definitely going to elevate that title. And I really think that a lot of the matches were really good.
Sure. He had a match against Darby Allin where he murdered Darby Allin. Yeah. So, for sure. Agreed. I did want to say, before we get into our Superstar of the Year and all those categories real quick, before we lightning round that, can we real quick, because there are so many pros in this year, do you have more pros? Because I wanted to see if it was just me. Because if not, then I wanted to just kind of go through listing, just naming them, other pros that happened this year, because I want to be positive this year about how much actually happened. There was so many pros in 2022 for us. Because I have more.
Nothing too crazy. A couple things I just want to shoot off real quick. Gunther and the Imperium.
Yep.
Just overall, they've been great with it.
Mm-hmm.
Ricochet, great with it. I think he's getting better. You know, now that he's.
I think he's trending in the right direction.
Correct.
I'd call it trending in the right direction.
Dominic Mysterio leaving his
trending
dad
in the right direction. Hell yeah.
And I think Mommy Rhea works really well.
Absolutely wonderful.
Gimmick, the whole story.
I'd marry Rhea Ripley today. Same. There's. Oh my god! I'm such a simp for Rhea Ripley, bro. It's sad. Huh?
I was gonna say never knew I needed this, but there was a moment also, just real quick I'm just gonna pump them out. Not even gonna go into detail on them. With Judgment Day overall, not now, but before I had a little thing on my phone where my lock screen was Do-Rag Vince and my home screen was Do-Rag Finn, and I did not know I needed that until today. Judgment Day overall has been a plus for this year for me.
Yep.
The OC returning, great.
See, you're big on New Japan. I think that they've been flat since they came back, but that's me personally,
I just think there's a lot of room for them to set up a lot of great matches. That's all. Because I want to see the OC versus the Imperium. That's a must.
Got it.
There's just room there, especially the Usos versus the OC is going to be another good one I would like to see because Big Daddy Dr. Doc Gallows himself and Carl Anderson with his hot Asian wife. I'm excited for it.
Okay.
let's see. Other things will rip. NXT 2.0 has been really good. Braun Breaker has been my weakest point. Melo never misses.
It's
The
never
controversy.
It's not 2.0 anymore.
They still call it 2.0. They still sadly call it 2.0 most of the time, but it's just new version of NXT technically, like 2.1 or whatever the crap. Melo never misses. Wesley is finally getting a push that I appreciate. There's just a lot of good talent down there. New Day finally being Triple Crown champions of the tag team, much needed. Apollo Crews finally getting a nice little fresh palate cleanser.
Hold on, you're going some deep cuts. Let me get some out here.
I'm trying not to go into detail because we got some time we got to push on.
You've got some deep cuts. I gotta get some out here. I'm just gonna start acknowledging Bloodline. Acknowledge the Bloodline. Acknowledge Sami Zayn.
Right, we acknowledge
the honorary Goose is the man.
The island of relevancy.
We're gonna go once again. I agree. Everyone on the island of relevancy is there. 100%. Perfect. Wonderful. Love you guys. Acknowledging. By the way, while he's out, Randy Orton, get well soon, man.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledging that Riddle actually did a step up and then did a step down this year. For the second half of the year, it was actually really weird after his suspension and everything, after all that happened with Seth Rollins. The Seth Rollins versus Riddle rivalry was really good while it lasted. Bray Wyatt return was amazing. He has not done too much since. I need more progression in his story, but Bray Wyatt returning, that return was the biggest pop of the year for me, besides Cody Rhodes. Then you got then honestly, I would also say give a shout out. I'm giving a shout out to the CM Punk MJF rivalry because people don't remember that it's this year. This year has been so long, what with all the shit that happened in the middle of it, that people don't remember that MJF CM Punk happened this year, guys. It happened this year.
Yeah.
It was amazing. That dog collar match was amazing. And then one thing that we have to give credit where credit's due, the ROH pay-per-views that have happened in the past year have all been headlined by FTR versus the Briscoes. FTR and the Briscoes are two of the greatest tag teams in the world, and they've proved it 3 times over. All 3 matches were 5 stars and up. It was a banger year for them. FTR would have been my tag team of the year if we had that category. Also, what more? Cody Rhodes, most valiant wrestler in the game right now. This man went in with a torn pec, completely torn off the bone, wrestled a Hell in a Cell match. That Hell in a Cell match was the only Hell in a Cell match since I've been a wrestling fan. I've 24 years old, been a wrestling fan most of my life, like literally 95 to 98% of my life, since I can remember. The only Hell in a Cell match that actually has scared me for the wrestlers has actually felt like real stakes from being inside of a cage. The whole point of Hell in a Cell is it's supposed to be a terrifying structure. They put it over as the demonic structure. This actually felt like the only time I've ever actually been scared for the wrestlers competing in Hell in a Cell, and him going in, wrestling a great match on one arm, on one half of his body basically, and Seth Rollins being amazing. Shout out to him being amazing enough performer, which I'll get to shortly. I'm going to get to him. He's just overall great. So those two, great job. That's honestly how I want to run out my pros, and then I think we should be heading into category territory soon, right?
And my very last ones I want to shout out real quick is Blackpool Combat Club.
Yep.
Goated. Wheeler Yuta, great. Bryan Danielson, great as well, especially with Steven Garcia. Just William Regal overall, amazing. MGF, dude, with a big Burberry belt, beautiful.
The Burberry belt's kind of tacky, but we're gonna.
I think it looks good. But yeah, so I think that will close it off for our goods and bads, and we'll finally send it off with our winners of the year. And Carlos, since I started with the good, you start off with your performer of the year.
Okay. So there are 4 that I have listed. I have best pay-per-view, best performer, best wrestler, and best match of the year. Best performer of the year, I'm giving to Sami Zayn. Okay, I'm going to give it to Sami Zayn, and here's why.
And real quick before you do that, I also give it to Sami Zayn.
Yes! Let's go! Okay, Honorary Uce. Before he was Honorary Uce, which happened the week after Mania, okay? Before Mania, he was in a 3-month storyline with Johnny Knoxville from Jackass, who made this whole thing. He went out of his way. He took it to himself. He went himself to the premiere Jackass, talked to Johnny, and was like, "Hey, let's do this thing for wrestling, and then we'll, from here, we already have a storyline going. Let's make it like I'm crashing your premiere and shit. Let's do this extra work outside of the company, outside of WWE TV to make this storyline big going into Mania, and then we'll do a match at Mania." And then the match at Mania was one of my favorite matches of all time at Mania because it was so much fun. It added to the fun of WrestleMania, which I told you was one of the funnest Manias I've ever watched in my life. And it's definitely the funnest Mania I've watched in a long time, and I enjoyed it so much. And he was a big part of that. And honestly, the second half of the year was gut-wrenching, it was heartbreaking at times, and it was oozy as hell. So we're going to give it to Sami Zayn, Performer of the Year. Let's go.
He's been hilarious. I've always loved Sami Zayn since he was El Generico, and I think this year has been his best year when it comes to comedy and storytelling. And dude, I'm going to give it to him on Performer as well because his in-ring storytelling is also as good as his just promo and just overall storytelling on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Because, dude, I've never felt such pain from someone than the War Games Survivor Series match when he's like looking at Kevin Owens across the ring and Roman is just giving him the nod like,
Go ahead. You got this. And he's like
no.
I'll do it for Tribal Chief. I'm doing it for the Tribal Chief. And then he gives Jay, of all people, like, I thought the War Games match, I thought Survivor Series was okay. It was an okay show. The War Games matches were not amazing. They were not as good as past War Games matches. The last 5 to 7 minutes of that show was some of the best story that I've seen all year. Where this man, all of the Kevin Owens things happened.
And also, honestly, it's like Sami Zayn, if you didn't have Sami Zayn in the equation, I feel like the Bloodline would still have something great. They would be a very serious, very powerful faction. But with Sami there, he elevates them equally as well because, he's carrying on this still backstage leader and master tactician. And, on top of all that, he wants to prove himself. He had this whole mini arc inside of it to where he was proving himself to Jay. Jimmy loved him, but Jay didn't. He was having this whole mini arc where he's like, he wants to become an Uso. He wants to show that, like, hey, I am one of you guys. I acknowledge the Tribal Chief. Yep. And him going out of his way to, like, hey, I'm cleaning myself up. I'm putting in the work every day of the week. I am dedicated to this bloodline.
It's amazing.
It's perfect, and I agree.
It's
Performer of the Year.
What you want out of wrestling storylines.
Sami freaking Zayn.
Sami Zayn is what you want out of a wrestling storyline. It is everything. It gives you someone. He's in a heel faction, and he's the biggest baby face in the company. That is how good he is right now. He's so damn good in this heel faction that when he comes out, they cheer for him. He's such a good bad guy with them. It's so amazing. And yeah, it goes to Sami Zayn. Do you want to tell me your superstar of the year? Because I know you were having some struggles with this, but Performer of the Year, congrats to Sami.
Superstar / Wrestler of the Year, we'll go to Kazuchika Okada.
Dude, Kazuchika Okada is always a great shout.
And the reason why I give it to Okada out of any other wrestler that has been, and don't get me wrong, Roman Reigns killing it, but he's been a part-timer. The Usos killing it, but tag team wrestling is its own genre for me. He not like real wrestler. Individually, Sami Zayn was a better performer than just an overall wrestler. I mean, yeah, if you were to talk to me back into like 2016, 2017 when he had his match with Shinsuke, then I would be like, yes, for hands down.
But even the second half of that year, he didn't. It wouldn't have.
And then AEW, John Moxley, he carried the company on his back, and he was doing all this stuff. But at the same time, you could tell John Moxley was getting a little bit tired. He was slowing down to a degree. Yes, he still has passion for wrestling, but you can tell that he was pushing his body to his limit and a lot of the stuff, and he put work in and out. But I'm also not a big John Moxley guy. That's just me.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Bryan Danielson, arguably one of the people I was struggling to choose from, because Bryan
Well,
Danielson had a...
So just so we're clear, your number one, of course, your guy is Okada, right?
Correct. And I'm going to
Before
get
you
into
keep
that
going,
why.
before you keep going, because I think you're going to get to my guy eventually. Just get back to Okada real quick, because I don't want you to. I want you to just start on another guy that I feel like you're going to get to.
Understood. So, but yeah, AEW has some good guys. WWE has some good guys this year. New Japan Pro Wrestling is my bread and butter. Jay White has been carrying the company to a degree through some dark times. And yes, Will Ospreay has been carrying the company through some dark times. But you put any wrestler in a ring with Okada this year.
We talked about Jonah.
You put anyone with Okada's gonna let that shit shine. He's gonna sell it. He's gonna work it. He is just by far one of the best wrestlers that New Japan has right now, and he is one of the safest wrestlers out there too. There are a couple spots against him and Ospreay that made me go, ooh. But at the same time, even him appearing in places like AEW, one of the best AEW matches I've seen in a while.
Unfortunately, it ended with an injury that was,
right.
You can't, hope Adam Cole gets better soon, baby.
Agreed.
Yep.
But yeah, that's why Okada is my favorite, man. He's been killing it out there. Honorable mention goes to Minoru Suzuki, because Minoru has been killing it in every single stroke of life, from IWGP, and Pro Wrestling Noah, New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW with the Forbidden Door stuff, him having his match against Jon Moxley, and sadly with the ending of Suzuki Gun, that is a closing tale for Minoru for this year. But nothing can top for me just Okada putting in the work for all that is New Japan. So that's my wrestler. That's my wrestler, superstar, genuine technical wrestler that is safe, strong, and can tell a story without having to cut a promo. I think he's just a great wrestler. Okay. This year, he killed it.
And I respect that. We're gonna... Best wrestler of the year. I could not do it. I tried so hard to find what was wrong. When you ask somebody for the past 10 years, because it's been 10 years as of November, who is the best member of the Shield? Real quick, rapid fire answer, Dylan. What's the first name that comes to your mind?
Seth Rollins.
Okay. I cannot answer that question anymore. I cannot answer that question. All three of them are at the top of their industry. All three of them. So right now, my answer for best wrestler of the year is a tie, a two-way tie, because Roman Reigns did not wrestle this year. Otherwise, I'm sure it would have been three. It's a two-way tie between Seth Rollins and Jon Moxley. I tried so hard. To pick one. It was so difficult. I'm such a mark for the Shield, and this in itself. Do you remember the only good moment of Royal Rumble? The only good thing that came out of Royal Rumble was Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, and then it ended in disqualification, and I was pissed. But Seth Rollins is still undefeated against Roman when it counts, so I don't want to hear it. No, Seth Rollins comes out in the Shield theme with the Shield attire on, through the crowd, the mind games, everything about it. Seth Rollins wrestles at WrestleMania against Cody Rhodes. Wrestles at Backlash against Cody Rhodes. Wrestles at Hell in a Cell against Cody Rhodes with only one pack. But like this dude is he kept Cody safe throughout that match. He should get an award for that alone. Like, then he has Money in the Bank. Like, I'm gonna list off the pay-per-views. Then he has Money in the Bank, where he honestly should have won the Money in the Bank contract. He was so close, and then they gave it to Theory. We're not gonna talk about Theory. We're not gonna fuck a Theory.
A-Town down.
No, stop it. So A-Town, go sit down somewhere. No, and then he has an amazing match. He has an amazing performance in the Money in the Bank. He has an amazing performance at Clash of the Castle. He didn't have a match at SummerSlam, even though him and Riddle had a wonderful back and forth thing going. He had a great thing, but that was the only thing Triple H could change, and he said, nah, I'm going to take him off the show. At the same time, we didn't know about Riddle's suspension that he technically had at the time too. But He took him off the show for that reason, too. He took him off the show and said, no, we're going to give them the match they deserve to have at Clash of the Castle. He had a wonderful match against Riddle in the fight pit, too. Clash of the Castle, he came out looking like Elton John. That was great. Loved it. He did the top rope, middle rope, curb stomp. It was amazing. He did the, then on top of that, at Extreme Rules, had the fight pit. That match was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. But I enjoyed it thoroughly, personally. Then on top, then you gotta keep going. It just keeps going throughout the year. Like, you name it, he's done it. He gives you, night in, night out, was the best performer on Raw. He got so over. He's the only person, when he comes out, everyone knows he's the man on Raw now, because Roman has both titles, which brings back to my point earlier about Roman having both titles and being a part-timer. It sucks, because he only goes to SmackDown when he's around. So, Seth Rollins carrying the torch for WWE. Now, as far as Jon Moxley goes, what hasn't been said already, he's done everything for that company this year. He came back at the start of the year from and I understand it's a self-induced issues, personal life, whatever. He had a baby last year, and then he had to leave because he had alcoholic issues, right? Went to rehab, came back in January, had a wonderful year. Revolution, he had a match against Bryan Danielson. That was amazing. William Regal came back, formed the Blackpool Combat Club. Had nothing but great matches before that and after that on TV. Double or Nothing had a great match. Was Double or Nothing? I'll get back to Double or Nothing. I believe Double or Nothing was the Anarchy in the Arena match. And Anarchy in the Arena was amazing. Yes, it was. Anarchy in the Arena was Double or Nothing. That was amazing. His theme song played the first, 7-8 minutes of it, and they just kept going around beating each other's asses. It was great. He put in consistency over the summer of Punk. It's the summer of Jon Moxley. That's what I'm calling it. It was Jon Moxley's summer. He carried the company on his back, killed it the whole time, was AEW champion, still the best AEW champion that we've had in my mind. I respect Kenny Omega. It's Jon Moxley. He's the man. And then had a banger at Full Gear, bringing the company back around. And honestly, I genuinely hope you get your time off soon, Mox, because he was supposed to go on vacation, and then the CM Punk shit happened, and he's like, fuck. All right, I'll stay.
He had to pick it up.
He had to step up for the company, and he stepped up instead of going on vacation with his family. So I genuinely hope at some point you go on vacation, get your vacation in, man. But right now it looks like you're about to have a banger with Hangman Page, so I can't wait for that to happen. But congrats, because you are one of my 2 superstars of the year, / wrestlers of the year. Yep, there you go.
All right, let's get into match of the year then.
Did you start that, or I start the last one? No, I did.
The last one. Yeah, the last one you did, because we did both at Sami Zayn, and then rest of the year I started off with Okada, and then you went into Moxley.
And Rollins.
So this will be your match of the year. Yeah.
Now, I love Cody versus Seth at Hell in a Cell. I love it. Absolutely great thing to say about it. This one goes to possibly the best. When we talk about wrestling, I've had friends who I talk about, and I've watched a lot of wrestling YouTube, and you hear a lot of things about this match. And one thing I've heard consistently, one thing that really resonated with me was that this match is the best match of its kind. Like, when you look at styles of matches, when you see something, Dillon, when you see a New Japan strong style match, when you see a match that's supposed to be strong style, when you see something that's supposed to be for the junior heavyweights, you see those styles of matches are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, when I saw Gunther versus Sheamus at Clash of the Castle, I will say, this is the best match. That
was a really good match.
This is the best match of its kind, that they could have put on.
I felt like I was watching a classic British strong style wrestling. I felt like I was watching a good match.
It was so good. The story, the power bombs were Sheamus, and don't get me wrong, a lot of people at first were like, oh, they botched it. Sheamus had an ugly power bomb cell where he landed on his lower back. They intentionally did that because he was already selling back problems. Sheamus landed on his spine almost, where he they did a powerbomb where he basically sat down when he landed. And it was horrible. And they did it 3 times. And I was like, ah! And every time. And then by the end, Sheamus couldn't get up to do the bro kick to win the match. And I was like, this was the most dangerous thing, and he beat his damn chest in. I'm sorry, you were gonna say something, but
Yes. So real quick, I want to stop you right there because I just want to quickly get into my match of the year before you continue because of three things. So real quick, my match of the year was going to be Okada versus Ospreay at G1 Climax.
wonderful match.
That was my number 2. My number 3 was actually, it just recently happened. It was Ricky Starks versus MJF. I really love that match.
When he turned the salt of the earth into his old version of it, where he uses his legs.
Yep.
I was like, that was wonderful. And then he
Now,
still got.
neither one of them had it on my match of the year, which was Gunther versus Sheamus at Clash of the Castle, and I agree. That was such a good match. It was the one match that I got excited because it brought back my childlike wonder of my love for British and like United Kingdom style, strong style wrestling. It's the reason I love William Regal. It's the reason I love Gunther. It's the reason I fell in love with Sheamus to start with. It was such a good match.
And ever since then, you can go and see everything Sheamus and Gunther have done. They had a rematch on SmackDown that was just as good. It was almost as good, but it ended with like this weird controversial. It was a free rematch that they couldn't make as good because it was a free rematch on SmackDown. They couldn't go as hard. But they also did 2 days. I think it was literally the day after that rematch. Extreme Rules happened, and they had a 3-on-3 Brawling Brutes and Sheamus versus Imperium match in an Extreme Rules match. That was so damn good. It was a Donnybrook match. It was so damn good, man. And the Brawling Brutes won that, and I was like losing my mind at how good that match was. Oh my god, but this all started from bangers. Like, it got Sheamus to the point where Sheamus now goes on about how he's like, all I've had is banger after banger after banger. And what's crazy is before this year, I was saying Sheamus this past 2 years has been on the run of his career where every single match that he has, I'm looking at it like, damn, Sheamus is so much better than he used to be in ring. Like, I acknowledge that Sheamus is so damn good in the ring now.
Agreed.
Like, I love it. I used to not care about it when it was, like, early 2010s against Cena, Orton, Triple H, all them. It wasn't as good to me when he was the Great White. It wasn't as good to me then. But even then, it was just different. He wasn't a clean-cut babyface guy that they wanted him to be. I didn't love it. The gimmick really took away from the in-ring style. His matches against Daniel Bryan were great. But then... This version of Sheamus, the bar was great, but this version of Sheamus is so good.
Hell, I didn't even like the idea of the Brawling Brutes before the Imperium match, and then I was like, dude, it sold me on the Brawling Brutes, and it sold me on Butch, and it's...
I was soured on them, not because of the Butch thing, because I love Pete Dunne. It wasn't killing it for me. I was soured on them because of the WrestleMania moment where Big E had just gotten injured by Rich Holland a few weeks earlier, which is, it happens. Injuries happen in wrestling, right? But his neck had just broken. Kingston and Xavier Woods came out in Big E attire, and they gave them a 2-minute match, and the Brawling Brutes won. I thought that was the most poorly booked decision of the year, and it soured the Brawling Brutes for me, and it wasn't their fault. It was Vince's fault.
It was just booking issues, and the fact that they brought back that momentum from just Clash at the Castle. Easily match of the year.
And they turned face because of it. The Brawling Brutes turned face because, not because of story reasons, no, just because they're out there putting on banger after banger after banger, and they turned face, and then they went on to have even better, you know what I mean? Like, matches, and like War Games was great too. So,
War Games.
Yeah. War Games. Yeah, so...
Alright, so let's finish off with pay-per-view of the year, my friend. I'll get started with Clash at the Castle. It was such a good pay-per-view. I mean, where do I start?
Oh,
Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle. Finally got the conclusion we wanted and needed. Great match. Edge and Mysterio versus.
Well, we got Extreme Rules after that, but that match that felt like the conclusion at first. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. It felt like a good conclusion at first. Edge and Mysterio versus Judgment Day. That was
Dominic kicking him in the nuts and losing his shoe.
Yeah, an old guard versus like new guard kind of thing, and the whole Dominic kicking him in the nuts was so good.
Yep.
Liv Morgan versus Shayna Baszler. That was kind of the weakest one, I feel like, because, Liv Morgan was kind of going through this phase of not everyone was about her anymore. I liked her.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was still a good match. Damage Control versus Bliss, Asuka, and Belair, if I'm correct.
Yes. Bliss and Asuka tag team had to.
I think Damage Control went over
titles.
for that match.
Damage Control did with Bayley beat Bianca Belair. That's why they gave them the match. Yep, that's why they gave her a match. That was a good one.
And then Madcap Moss, who I'm on, Street Profits, who I love, versus the Alpha Academy and my boy Theory. I love Theory. I thought that was a banger of a match too. I'm mixed on him, but that's a separate conversation. But you get these two big dogs, the Alpha Academy. Thank you with the Street Profits.
I don't care about the gimmick. Alpha Academy is great because Chad Gable's amazing.
He's just so good, and Otis is great too.
Chad Gable's in-ring wrestling is just top notch, and he needs a push in 2023. Otherwise, if I don't see him get a push there, fuck it, sign him AEW, give him something. But sign everybody else, sign Chad Gable right now.
Real talk though, you're telling me Gunther with Giovanni Vinci coming back into the thing,
and then it felt like they were such a unit.
It felt like a warm welcome too when he came back into Imperium's fold, because I was so sick of the Giovanni Vinci gimmick.
I mean, he did one entrance where he had Wade Barrett do the thing too, where he posed with Wade Barrett and the other guy, the other commentator from NXT. Yep. And cool. Wade Barrett doing the Vinci face, the posing face, where he's like, pose for the camera. That's just such a meme for Wade Barrett to pose for. But alright, yeah, but still, I know what you mean though. It felt well. It felt like a warm welcome, and definitely.
And finally, the match between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, and for Drew to bring back a little snippet of his original theme.
Broken Dreams.
So
Broken
good.
Dreams.
It was
Broken
such a
Dreams
good
started.
Match.
And that crowd, think about how much the UK crowds love to sing themes. They sang Edge's theme word for word. When Broken Dreams started, they lost their minds. And even then, we've been wanting Broken Dreams. Drew has been saying in interviews he wanted Broken Dreams back for the longest. He wants to bring it out at a big moment, when it's like a big moment at WrestleMania or something. And he brought it back in a UK crowd. Whether or not Wales is, by the way, not... Wales is not his hometown. There's the only thing I hate, is that WWE has a weird understanding of how the UK works, where they're like, oh, in his home country, Drew has to fight Roman. It's he's Scottish. Well, it's okay. He's Scottish, but it's okay.
Another thing too, though, is that I wouldn't even pin it on WWE for that, because even if it was just a predominantly Welsh crowd, you had people from Ireland come on over. You had people from Scotland come down. You had people from
I understand completely. It was everyone from everywhere, but it's just me nitpicking a little bit. Yeah. Is that it's just one thing that WWE always does when there's a UK crowd for anything. They're like, oh, well, this guy from Scotland is here for his home country of Wales. That's not how that works, man. They did the same thing with Sheamus. In his home country, it's also not how that works. He's Irish. But it's still wonderful crowd.
Great venue, great crowd, great match card.
Great pay-per-view set. Did you see the set?
Yes.
They had... So good. It made me so happy, because I was like, Triple H is bringing back really cool pay-per-view sets, and I can't wait.
So, yeah, I mean...
I'm not much.
After all of that, let's just run it by real quick. Bads for me was... NJ New Japan Pro TV Championship, Ric Flair final match, AEW hiring spree, Summer Punk and Butcher of Ring of Honor. Goods were Forbidden Door, Danhausen, 24/7 Championship gone, Triple H, Cody Rhodes, and all of WrestleMania. Performer of the Year for me, Okada. Sorry, Performer of the Year was Sami Zayn. Wrestler was Okada. Match of the Year was Sheamus and Gunther, and the pay-per-view was Clash at Castle. And for you? Rundown.
My cons were basically the controversies. Brawl Out, Vince McMahon, Cody Rhodes leaving AEW and then joining WWE again. Ric Flair's retirement match, Tony Khan booking a clusterfuck the whole year. Roman being a part-timer with both titles, and then Tyrus as the NWA champ. My big one, I also threw in the WWE returns and AEW debuts as part of the clusterfuck of Tony Khan booking. Right? But still. And then Pros were Full Gear, just being a great show after all the bullshit this year and bringing AEW back to its prestige. Triple H's grace period so far. I think he's done a great job so far. Forbidden Door as a pay-per-view, wonderful. WrestleMania being amazing and so much fun, just so much fun. And then Logan Paul putting on potential Rookie of the Year. Not for me personally, I'd still go with Hook, but potential Rookie of the Year showcase this year. And then my awards did go one more time. It was Match of the Year was Gunther Sheamus, pay-per-view was Clash the Castle, performer was Sami Zayn, and Wrestler of the Year was tied between Jon Moxley and Seth freaking Rollins. Yep,
and
guys.
I would say that we agreed relatively close on the awards and the goods and bads. I mean,
yeah, and I will say
one little differ here and there.
For sure, we definitely had some disagreements. Like we said, there's going to be times with wrestling fans. It's all subjective, right? Wrestling is something we've loved since we were children. And honestly, since I met you, we've talked so much about wrestling on the side. We were saying for so long we got to get this podcast going that we would call 2 out of 3 if we get it going. So this is basically just this episode of the Insert Here podcast was, I guess you could say, a snippet of what 2 out of 3 would be, right?
Now, you know what I would say it is, Carlos? It's a 2 out of 3 takeover. Make some noise. Sorry, I had to.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well, yeah. That's what? That was awesome.
All right, everyone.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate y'all joining us for this fun little podcast of Carlos and I having a great time and just talking wrestling and doing all this fun stuff with y'all.
For damn near 2 hours. So sorry about that overkill, but
yeah, when we get excited about wrestling, you can tell.
You can tell.
Well, I hope you join us for next time, where hopefully we'll have the full 3 out of 3 crew. And we thank you so much for watching and listening.
Thank you.